Hello, welcome to our session on Azure Community MQS. My name is Nicholas Chang. I'm joined with co-host Kevin Green.
Hey folks, welcome aboard to another episode.
Yeah, so today we're gonna do something different. So we have like a speaker out, and we're gonna do like one speaker session, and then we're gonna do like a open mic conversation. So let me just tell you about it. So welcome. So you can stay up to date by following us on social media through LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook by scanning this barcode. And the code of conduct is that all members of this group should adhere by to this code of conduct by being friendly and welcoming to everyone, be patient, be thoughtful, be respectful, inclusive, and be open and curious. Always ask questions to understand and not to criticize. So this is our agenda for today. It's gonna be not security, just Azure Arc, and then we're gonna do an open mic. So in a few minutes, we're gonna have a session from Saeid. Dahl. So sorry, I pronounced it wrong. He's a solution architect, and he's from WeSafe, and he's doing a session on join us for walkthrough for Azure Arc Wonderland, and then after his session, we're gonna have an open conversation, open mic, where we just talk about anything related Azure Arc or Azure related, and then the next episode we have is on the 27th of this month in a few weeks. And then we're doing a FinOps session about unleashing FinOps with Azure cost marginalization from S to VIA. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. And we're going to do like open ag because by crafting a subject sidekick with Azure Connective Service. So so that's our session. Let me invite the speakers.
Hello, Azure enthusiasts.
Hello.
Saeid. Hey, Leia.
Yeah, all good. I'm happy that I'm not only Santa here. Yeah, with
No,
my hat.
it's Santos.
We couldn't leave you on your own, Saeid.
No.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
And
But
for
yeah,
anybody watching the video wondering why Leo is back on, he couldn't get enough of us, and he's back by popular demand. So we've got a good audience, I think, Saeid. So over to you.
Yeah.
Your magic.
okay, cool.
Let me put back in. You can share your screen.
Yeah, sure. Let me start that. Let's start with window. Yes.
There you go. I can see it.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Thumbs up if you can see my screen, please.
I can see it. I can see it.
Okay, cool, perfect. So yeah, very welcome to another session of Azure Enthusiast Community. I'm really happy that I'm today with you guys, and I want to talk about another cool service in Azure that's named Azure Arc. So the screen that you can see right now is the big reason behind that, because I really love Matrix movie, and I was thinking why I shouldn't combine Azure Arc to this movie. And the main reason is because I believe stacking in complexity of hybrid environment is like a matrix. So today I'm gonna to share with you how you can get out from the matrix of the complexity for hybrid environment. So let's start. So basically, when I have everything on Azure, like resources regarding security, policy, databases for monitoring, networking, containers, it's really easy to manage, right? Like you have access, you have basically the ability, the flexibility to extend your resources, or you can manage them easily. But what I faced when I basically faced another to use another environment, for example, when I had an on-premise environment connected to the organization that I had, and what if I added another complexity like other clouds? So basically, when you have a hybrid environment included multi-clouds and on-premise environment, it's really hard to manage different aspects of your environment. So when it's come to the security, when it comes to the innovation, scalability, so you have to think about all of these things. And beside that, the cost. So basically, you need to have different application, different resources to manage different part of this your environment. So what happened to me? Basically, I became like no. So the metrics that I stuck at was related to the hybrid environment, and it was so hard because managing a complex environment included different clouds and on-premise resources. It's really hard because you need to have different resources, different applications, and it's also the security wise is not really good. So I want to stop this story here and just let me talk about myself a bit more. So my name is Saeid Dahl. I'm from Sweden, and I'm Microsoft Learning expert, and I'm a community leader of Azure Zero to Hero and MS Farsi learning rooms with almost 1,800 members. And I'm Azure technical leader and senior solution architect at WeSafe. Also, I've been working on IT industry for more than 15 years, and my main focus is on automation and integration, cloud hybrid, and cloud adoption on Azure. Also, if you want to connect me, and if you have any question, just follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter. So let's back to the story, right? Yeah, so I actually tired of managing and control the multi-environment, and it was really hard because I had to have control on everything on different environments. So what happened? I actually met someone. So this guy, as we know, his name is Morpheus, but I just need to mention a real name here, who is Leo Kamarat. And this guy showed me, actually gave me two options, and based on the story, metric story, he gives me two pills, red pill and blue pill. So he said, let's say he's Morpheus here. He said, with the red pill, I have to managing various environment separately, and also I will miss innovation and additionally running cloud native applications on like Kubernetes faces difficulties due to using different tools, and like compliance issue I will have. What I faced a lot with different environment on premise, and it was really hard. And the other hand, he said, okay, you can get out from this matrix. So if I take the blue pill here, I manage diverse resources and environment using Azure across various tools, which is like Azure CLI, Azure PowerShell, REST API, ARM template, and I'm able to create resources on one plane of the management, or I can manage them in one plane. So Azure Data Service on Kubernetes cluster and extending benefits on on-premise workloads like Windows Server and SQL servers was included this idea. So basically now it's time to make a decision for me, right? And since I want to get out the metrics and able to manage my environment is, with the flexible way, I choose the blue pill. Of course, the blue color remind me Azure color too, so I took that one. But if you already watched the movie, actually no, choose go with the red one. But here we are talking about Azure, and I would like to go with blue one. So I took the blue one. So I asked Morpheus where I am, and it said, "Okay, you are in the Azure Arc, Wonderland." So when I took that pill, now I got access to all of resources that I need, all of learning resources that I need to be able to understand what exactly is behind the scene of the Azure Arc. So let's have a look on the high level. So uh, as you can see here, with Azure Arc, I can manage my environment regardless of physical distribution. So with Azure Arc, I can manage the resources or use Azure feature as much as I can manage or deploy in Azure. I'm not able to use my favorite services like Logic Apps, Service, Azure Service Bus, machine learning, or like auto patching, updates, Azure automation, and so on. So I'm able to monitor and control resources easily on one plane. So I don't need to use other applications, other services to be able to manage different environments. So I have everything in Azure environment. So it's the best way that you can manage your different environment, and also you can use Azure favorite services in your on-premise environment. But before we continue, we need to understand how Azure Arc does work. So the things that I'm explaining here right now, it's about the general usage of the Azure Arc. And for the advanced models or complex models, of course, you need to have some more resources and some more implementation. But first, we need to understand how does it work. So when you want to onboard a physical server, or let's say a VM in the other cloud or in your on-premise environment, you need to generate script from your Azure Arc from Azure tenant, and then you need to install the agent based on the script that you generated. And the cool thing is, as soon as you install the agent on your server, you only need the outbound connection. This part is really, really important, because when you work with Azure Arc, you basically do not need to open any kind of port to your environment as inbound traffic, because Azure Arc only does work with outbound traffic, and it's really secure, and you can use port 443 to be able to communicate from your on-premise or other cloud to Azure. So what will be happen after that? After the connection established, so you have your actual VM as a kind of VM in your Azure environment. So you have all of options that you actually have for your VMs, Azure VMs, on your on-premise environment. For example, you can use monitoring, you can have different policies, you can use security, update management, patch management, and it's really cool and it's so fast. So basically, you can onboard all of your on-premise environment servers, and you can be sure that everything can manage in one plane of management inside Azure. So that's really cool. If you watch the movie, you already know what is this picture. So inside the movie, for just people that haven't watched this movie yet, there was some phones inside the different places. So if Nose and their friends, his friends had some trouble, or like if they were in danger and so on, and they wanted to get out from Matrix. They had some phones connected to their base, and they just needed to contact to like kind of backend, and they could be able to get out from Matrix. So I really wanted to use that concept for different part of Azure. So you have different phones, different kind of phones concept in Azure Arc. So let's have a look on that part. So we call it Azure Arc Management. And the biggest one is Azure Arc Resource Bridge. So what you can do with Azure Arc Resource Bridge. And one of the things that I need to mention, all of this name convention should be like this. You cannot use it like the others because it's a kind of name convention that Azure Arc team manage that and define that. So that's the way we need to basically use the naming. So let's back to Azure Arc Resource Bridge. What I had in my environment, basically, I had VMware vSphere, and also I had System Center, included some Hyper-V. In this other part of organization, also I had some like Azure Stack HCI. So I had my private private cloud. I know it can be complex scenario, but yeah, you need to think about that for like big environments. You maybe you would have all of these things. So if I have this environment, then Azure Arc is the metrics phone, that concept that can help me to get out from this complexity. Why? Because I can onboard all of my environments, included VMware's, vCenter, Azure Stack HCI with this Azure Resource Bridge, and I can control and deploy and updates, and I have access to monitor my environment in a single plane of management, which is so cool. Because instead of that, you need to have VMware monitoring system, and then also for your vCenter, which is a different environment, and also Stack HCI that you need to control them. So basically, I just need to deploy the Arc Resource Bridge to be able to onboard my environment to Azure Cloud and manage them. So you have a lot of options there after you onboard your VM. You can start, stop, restart VMs. You can manage disk. You can install the extension and control your VMs on centralized management. And also, if you want to control the update management of your servers, that's the cool solution that you can use that. So the Azure Arc Resource Bridge is one of the biggest and complex scenarios that you can use for your environment. If you check Microsoft website, you can see there are different type of that. For example, you can see Azure Resource Bridge, Azure Arc Resource Bridge. Also, you can see the other one for VMware and also for vCenter, System Center. But basically, for all of those scenarios, you need to have Azure Arc Resource Bridge to be able to onboard your environment to Azure side. So let's go for the next one, which is my favorite, actually. Next one is my favorite because you can do a lot of things with this Azure Arc enabled server. So I had a very hard time to manage and update my servers on different environments, right? So I had to manage and control them by different applications. And of course, problem with cost, not enough flexibility to deployment, and also management. So with Azure Arc enabled server, I onboarded my servers to the cloud, and now I can apply my Azure tenant policies, which is really cool. I can use Azure Arc Defender for cloud so easily. As you can know, Cloud Defender for cloud, it's really amazing solution. in terms of security. So you can bring those solutions to your environment, and you can easily apply different scenario like security, policy, compliance, and so on to your environment. So I'm able to use configuration management and patch management in higher scale, not like a normal scale or a small scale. I'm talking about higher scales. And in the other hand, the security and monitoring are very perfect right now, because I can manage and control every single part of my servers, included server management, traffics, policies, or even I'm able to push some specific configuration. And one of the cool things that I love about Azure Arc enabled servers, I'm not sure how many of you work with Azure Automation before, but basically with Azure Automation, you can run specific script on your server, included some automation tasks or even like Python code. So imagine that you can bring that solution to your on-premise environment, which is so cool. If you have some complexity, or if you have some problem to have some scheduled tasks for some specific script in your environment, this is the solution. So you can control all of your automations aspects from Azure, but for your on-premise environment. And for different servers, it doesn't matter if it's Windows or if it's Linux. So basically, this solution is perfect for those who want to manage their on-premise servers or other cloud servers inside Azure Arc. And beside that, for the security reason, you can use, for security aspects, you can use site-to-site VPN. It does support Azure Express Road, private endpoint, and it's perfect if you want to use service tags, so you can apply different policy, right? So it's really cool to have this scenario for your hybrid environment. So let's jump to the other one, which is the developer favorites. So what I faced, my developers always were sad about lack of flexibility on Kubernetes environment. Now, not only they have enough flexibility to continue development, but also I'm so happy because I can control the security of my environment in different layer, which is easy to manage. And you can use Azure RBAC, role-based access control. On also, you can manage the different layer of the security, like based on user security on Azure Entra ID. And it's perfect because beside that, you have a centralized management, and I can help developer to use machine learning if they want to have this feature on their deployment. By Azure Arc, I could bring all of Kubernetes cluster to a single plane of management. If you're familiar with AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service, or if you already work with that, so would it nice to mention you can have same experience as you have with AKS if you onboard your Kubernetes clusters into Azure by Azure Arc. So basically, it's perfect because you can have everything centralized in Azure, and also you have this option to connect your environment to like Git services, DevOps, Azure DevOps, or GitHub. So it's perfect for developers. You can, I would say developers. Also, we have to think about that it's easy to manage for administrators too. So you can have everything in one place. And you can, as I've mentioned, use Azure Entra ID for user management on different layer of your Kubernetes service. So we are talking about on-premise side, and it's really important that we know managing Kubernetes in on-premise side or the other clouds it's really hard because you have to keep controlling and monitoring your environment. So you can have everything on Azure, which is cool. So let's jump on the other one, the other phones, let's say. So in my organization, I had different databases that I cannot leverage to move them to any cloud because of country boundary for government regulation. That's some kind of scenarios that maybe you already faced, or maybe in the future you heard about that, because databases, and maybe some company says or organization says, okay, we are not going to move our databases to the cloud, but we would like to have Azure features like managing, control, and so on. So what we should do, basically, you can use this Azure Arc data service. Why? Because basically, when I did that, when I used this solution, now I'm able to manage, apply security, and have elastic scale option regardless where databases running, which is very, very interesting. So you can have flexibility, which is really cool, and you can control everything on Azure. Also, I can apply updates or control the databases in one single plane of management. Also, since I have a specific kube clusters to manage this environment, I can apply disconnect scenario in my environment, which is help if I want to apply more level of security. So if you have some limitations to having like a direct connection to Azure, so you can have a Kubernetes API or the kind of server or service in your environment, which is connected to Azure Arc service. And that one is responsible to control your environments. So you can easily improve your security. Also, you can bring all of those backups from your environment to cloud, and you can easily apply like business continuity, disaster recovery in your on-premise environment. Beside that, you can use Microsoft Container Registry, which you have on Azure or Kubernetes clusters too. So let's check the last one. This one is cool too, because I was always thinking that would be nice if I can have same control that I have on my SQL server on Azure. Like I'm talking about platform as a service, the SQL service, Azure SQL service. So Azure Arc helped my dream came true. How? So now, since I onboarded my SQL servers, I'm able to use Defender for Cloud to my databases. So I can continue security on my environment. Also, I can have a best practice assessment on my SQL servers. So I can make sure all best practices are applied on my SQL servers and databases. Also, I have two SQL Server version 2022, and now I can use Azure Authentication Login or Microsoft Entra ID Authentication Login, which is it's the other level of the security. One thing that I need to mention, as you know, Server 2012 is already expired to receive security updates. So how you can extend that? Do you need to change to the other version of the Windows? Of course, this is one of the options. But if you don't have that option, you can onboard your server to Azure Arc based on Azure Arc enabled servers management system. And you can apply the extend security update on your servers, which is really cool. So all of these features that I mentioned come together, and they created that phone's concepts to help us to get out from metrics of the complexity of a hybrid environment. So I used Azure Arc for different scenarios, and that does work for many scenarios that are related to a hybrid environment or multi-cloud environment. So I can have one plane of management for everything. So let's have a look about the price, see how much we should pay for Azure Arc. The good things about Azure Arc is if you want to onboard your servers or Kubernetes clusters, you do not need to pay for anything. And basically, in fact, onboarding resources, inventory, tagging, and using role-based access control are free. It's so cool, right? So you can easily onboard without paying any money. So you have your servers in cloud, and basically you can have some basic controls like role-based access controls on your environment, and you can easily use like resource graph explorer or using like ARM templates or API or PowerShell to manage your on-premise or more other clouds environment, and you do not need to be worried about the costs. So that part is about the free part. But let's see what we have to pay actually, or for what we have to pay for Azure Arc. So if you want to use Azure Arc enabled servers, you have to pay $6 per servers per month if you use Azure Guest configuration. Azure Guest configuration, you can check about that in Microsoft documentation, but just to mention that this is a kind of feature that you can apply specific configuration to your servers. So it's really cool. You can use that, and it's not that expensive. So it's perfect to use. Also for Defender monitoring, the charge is based on the service. You know, if you have a Cloud Defender for your actual VMs on Azure, or if you are using Azure monitoring, basically it's the same cost that you are paying for your resources to use these services on Azure. So there's no differences between that. When it comes to Kubernetes cluster, for first 6 virtual CPUs, you are not going to pay anything. But for after that, you need to pay $2 per virtual CPUs per month. And that one is not that much when you want to have everything in one place. So it's really cool. When it comes to data services, you have 2 options: standard edition and enterprise edition, and it really depends on basically how you want to use, how much resources you want to use, and it's more about more virtual core or more RAM on data services that you are going to use. And you can learn more about that in Microsoft documentations, because it's about some advanced scenarios if you want to use data services. Cool. Now we learn about the costs. So we should say, okay, we learn Azure Arc somehow, and maybe it's time that I show you. But wait, this is a problem here. Why? When you have, when you want to test Azure Arc, so you need to have on-premise environment, right? Or even you need to work with multi-clouds. And it's complex because when you want to onboard basically a different environment for the first time, maybe it takes time because you want to start testing and see how does it work, how Azure Arc does work. So what we should do basically, that's the important question that maybe comes to your mind. Here we have Jumpstart. So Jumpstart is amazing. Why? Basically, Jumpstart is a project, and I should say big thanks to Jumpstart team. They have created a very amazing solution, and based on that, you are able to implement different scenarios for Azure Arc. And all of that possible by ARM template or Bicep, and also from Azure Portal that I'll show you in a minute. Very easy to implement and use. So today I'm going to show you how you can use Azure Arc, and basically based on jumpstart scenarios. And also the main part of the demo is related how you can use jumpstart actually. So you can go to jumpstart website. They've changed the jumpstart website looks recently. I love it. The design is perfect, the colors are perfect. So you can check out the Azure Arc jumpstart.io.com. So you can see some information there. Beside that, the code design principle says, okay, they are going to continuous code synergy. And basically, you have HCI box, you have jumpstart scenarios, Arcbox, and Agora. So basically, you have 4 different dimension here that can bring a lot of benefits for you when you want to start working with Azure Arc in your environment. So when we talk about different flavors, so we can talk about Arcbox. So in Arcbox, you have 4 different flavor, which is related to full edition, DataOps edition, or DevOps edition, or even IT Pros edition. So for each part of these flavors, basically you are going to implement all of resources that you need to use with Azure Arc. So just give you an idea how it does work. So it's included all of necessary resources that you need, for example, to implement Azure Arc scenario based on IT Pros edition. So like onboarding servers, different OS, using Azure Sentinels, log analytics, and also different networking system. And basically, when you use Azure Arc, Jumpstart, Jumpstart helped you to accelerate the actually usage of the Azure Arc. So you do not need to worry about, okay, how many resources do I need? How should I implement it? With one Bicep or ARM template or Azure Portal deployment, you can have all of resources that you need for start testing or getting some experience on Azure Arc. And it's really cool. So what I'm going to do right now, I want to show you how you can, what kind of information you can get from Jumpstart website. And then we can have a look on one of these scenarios that I implemented in my environment. And basically, we can have a look on Azure Arc environment together to see what kind of things that we can have in Azure Arc. So I'm going to stop this presentation here, navigating to Azure Arc here. So azurejumpstart.com. So this is the website. And if you scroll down, you can see Azure Arc Jumpstart Universe. And as you can see, 4 dimensions here. Jumpstart scenarios, Agora, Arcbox, and HCI box. So the HCI box is exactly like Azure Stack HCI. So if you want to test Azure Stack HCI plus Azure Arc and resource bridges, so basically you can reuse this scenario. And it's not that much complex. So you can see each different steps here with diagrams and all resources that you need to implement. But let's back to the simpler one. Let's go with Jumpstart Arcbox that you have different flavors here. And let's see Arcbox for IT Pros. So here, if I zoom in, you can see that I have a full diagram here, included all of resources that I need to install or implement. But when I'm saying I need, basically it's included all of those resources that I'm going to install or let's say implement and deploy with ARM templates. So if I scroll down a bit, after all these diagrams, I have the steps. So like prerequisite, this part is really important. Maybe you need to request for more core in different regions, and you need to go through these steps. And you need to create a principal app to use that, resource groups, security, and so on. So you have one option here, deploy to Azure, or either you can use ARM template, like be Azure CLI, or like WeSafe. And after you implement, basically, also you have Terraform deployment here if you are a fan of the Terraform. So after you implement and finished with deployment, basically you just need to update your WeSafe template or ARM template parameters, included like SSH key. Basically, it's mentioned here that you need to update your parameters here, like the location, if you have principal ID for the app, the username and password, and so on. After that, you just need to deploy with WeSafe or ARM template. And after a while, depends on the flavor that you selected. It could take like it can take like between 15 or like 30 minutes. As I said, it really depends on flavor that you are going to select, because you are going to select how many resources you are going to deploy. So after that, basically, you need to go through the next step. One of the core components that you will have on this scenario is one VM that called Arc client that I can show here. Okay. 1000 asks. So if I go to resource groups that I've created here regarding that, I have a client, I have a VM that called ArcBox client. So after you deployed all of necessary resources, basically you need to do a remote connection to this server. And after that, you just need to wait. Just sit back, have a coffee, and enjoy all of amazing things that Jumpstart team has done for you, because it's going to start all of necessary tasks like creating VMs, creating infrastructures, and all necessary components. And after that, when it's done, it's going to onboard all of those resources that it's created to basically Azure Arc. So if I want to show you how does it look, I already has done that implementation. So what you will have a Hyper-V here, included some servers, which is simulating your infrastructure, like servers that you need to onboard. Also, you have other options like it's going to install SSMS or like SQL management or data studio and so on, that you can interact with different services in your environment. And when it's done, basically you are able to use Azure Arc here. So as you can see, I have a lot of resources here. So I use the IT Pros, actually not IT Pros, I use the other one, which is ArcBox Full. So it's included all of these things. I had some issue, as you can see, failed. So you can easily just go here and see what was the failed issue. Maybe it's related to some core limitation that I had in my environment and so on, so I can easily see what is the problem. But when it's done, basically, if I go to Azure Arc, I can see some items here, like machines, which is really cool. Why? Because I can manage all of these things that I have in VM on my on-premise environment. So imagine you have all of these servers on your on-premise side, like other clouds and so on. So if I go here, I have other options here. Like I can use updates, logs, auto manage, monitoring inside. I can apply policies to my on-premise environment. I can use change track and inventory. I can apply different security levels. I have auto manage. Also, I can use Azure automation features to apply some specific scripts. Even I can run commands and I can send these comments to my servers on premise side. So it's really cool and you can use that. So what else? Other services. So you have all of these items here. So like data services, if I bit zoom in, like infrastructure part included Arc virtual machines, Kubernetes, VM Center, or even other features, data services layer, and also application services, which is really cool, like included Azure IoT operations that I can apply the IoT on my Kubernetes clusters. So what I've onboarded here by this script, I have SQL Server instance here too. So I onboarded my actual SQL here. So if I navigate to this one, which I've onboarded, I have some options here. I can apply best practice assessment. It's really cool. So what can I see here? I can start run assessment. I can schedule that. I can set some configuration on top of that. And if I check this assessment that I've done here, I can get all of this information, which one is resolved, which one is new, and all these information. Beside that, I can get some information here. For example, enable instance file initialization. So I can see what is the problem, what is the best practices that I can apply on my SQL servers. So basically, beside that, I can see some information about databases that I have. And also, I can have backups easily. I can back up all of those databases into the cloud. And having Cloud Defender for Cloud on my databases. And one of cool things that Jumpstart team has done about this onboarding process, they have created some issue. I'm talking about some security issue process or like issue on best practices and so on. So you can see actual errors. So for example, here I have integrity issue monitoring. So I can see, okay, there is some issue here. How can I fix it? How can I use logic apps and trigger that to apply some changes to the environment? So I have all of those things plus Kubernetes cluster. As I mentioned before, if you already work with AKS, you can see all the features that you have on AKS you have here. So you can use GitOps, you can use service mesh, you are able to apply policies and so on. So all those options that you have on on Azure environment, you can apply it to other environments too. So basically, I would say Azure Arc is a game changer. To just show you some information also here. So if you want to onboard a server, let's see if I can have access to one of my on-premise servers.
Sorry, Saeid.
Yes.
I got a question from someone called Hatim. So
Okay.
can we use Azure Arc for high availability? Also, if to migrate from on-prem to Azure?
Let me read. Can we use Azure Arc for high availability and also to migrate from on-premise to Azure? So basically, Azure Arc is a solution to manage your hybrid environment. So for migration process, there are other services that you can use, but basically you can use it for high availability, yes, because you can apply different scenarios and you can basically have Azure Arc beside the other Azure services, and you can apply high availability, fault tolerance, disaster recovery on your resources. However, it's not basically a solution for migration. It's a solution for your hybrid environment. So it's really good if you want to apply for high availability disaster recovery, but when it comes to migration, it's not the best solution, I would say. So I hope this answer does make sense. Let's back to my server if I can log in, or I think I have some difficulty on my local server, or maybe yes, no, we would see. Okay. So I have my server here, which is on my local environment. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create and add a machine. So as you can see, you have other options here, like adding multi-servers or using RDM management to apply and add other servers. So what I can do, I can generate script. I just need to define the resource group. And one of things that you need to know, you need to basically uh, select the region and the operation system, if it's public endpoint or you are using a proxy service or private endpoint. So you need to define that. And you can use different tags. I'm not going to use that right now. And then you can either copy and download this script, and it's easy. Just come here and run it. And you just need to wait some moment. So it's going to install the extensions on the server, and when it's done, the onboarding will be start. So that's a cool process. And just I do not need, as I mentioned before, I do not need to open any kind of ports for my inbound connection to my environment. So this is a test VM that I have on my laptop, on my VMware, and I actually using Windows firewall, my routers front, at the edge of the network. So I do not need to do anything with that part. So we just need to wait to be finished of the onboarding process, and after that, I can able to see my VM. So we just need to wait here, and during that, if anyone had any questions, just shout out. So as you can see, maybe it's a bit blurry. Unfortunately, let's see if I can do some zoom in here. Yeah, amazing. Or what happened? Okay. Thank you, Edge. I do not need to have you here right now. Okay. A bit zoom here. So it says please logging. This is the important part here. So I'm going to log in to my environment because it's a necessary step. and authentication layer, of course. So now I can close that window. I do not need to use that again. So basically, I've been authenticated to my tenant, and it's going to start to onboard my server. As you can see, you have the resource ID here. You can easily track that, and some progresses bar. And when it's done, then we navigate to our Azure Arc environment to see what is the result. So if I back here, if you have multi-servers, you can go here and generate script and some information. Here, of course, it's not going to give it to me because I have to select some information like the resource group, region, and so on. The one thing that I need to mention here, if you want to have a multi-level security on your environment, of course, proxy server, private endpoints are the best solution that you can use here. So let's back to the server, see it's still 60%. And behind the scene that just need to say, okay, it's going to install the agent and also applying different, creating some metadata that it needs to be communicated with Azure Arc. So as you can see, it's just one server that I'm going to onboard to Azure Arc. So if you want to test it with one server, I don't know, 10 servers, it's really cool. Even you can use other type of the access that you have here that I mentioned, like using server from object management. It's really cool. However, if you want to have a very good test environment, so Arcbox is the best solution. So you just need to deploy that. And since we are waiting here, I would like to show you something cool here. So if you go to Azure Arc and overview, you have get hands-on with Azure Arcbox. So just try Arcbox, and it's the same scenario. So you have this option to deploy Arcbox Full or Arcbox IT Pros, and you can see how much is cost, what kind of resources do you need, and easily you can select one of these solutions next, and it's going to create principal app for you. And when the principal app is ready, you just need to define the region, resource group, password, and so on that you need. And then next and create and just wait. And the same scenario, you will have a client called Arcbox client that you need to run it and waiting for other part of the scenario. So it still says 60%, but I think it's related some connection issue that I have on my wireless because my laptop on wireless. But if it's done, then I can see the server here. I think this one is the correct. Yeah, it just onboarded, but it's waiting to be installed. Defender for Cloud and monitoring agent. Actually, the agent, right? So as I mentioned before, you have all other options here like auto managing, running commands, and so on. I really like to be able to connect admin center here, but it takes time to be able to do that. But I cannot do it right now. But after you enable that, you have a lot of options. For example, you can connect to your VM from Azure. So you have on-premise environment, you have a lot of servers, you are worried about the remote access to your environment, you can use Azure Arc. Easy. You just onboard the server and use Bastion or use or a PowerShell or API connection or even ARM template. So it's all of cool things that you can have on your environment. So basically, I'm encouraging you to use Azure Arc and That's all about Azure Arc. So please let me know if you have any questions. And middle of that, still, yeah, as I said, I have some issue connection here, but it's really easy. It's already onboarded. Just need to install some extension on server. So yeah.
Sorry, I got a question.
Yeah, sure.
There's a tab saying not connected to Azure, but it's onboarded. Is it because it's not fully connected?
Once again, what did you say?
On one of the VM, I think it's called Win one. It says not connecting to Azure. Is it because it's not onboarded yet?
Yeah, if they are mentioning this one, yes. So it's not fully onboarded yet. So when the agents or extensions are installed completely, then you can see it's connected here.
Okay.
So yeah, that's all. Hope you enjoyed about Azure Arc.
That was really good, Saeid. I've used Arc quite a bit, and we have a lot of customers. I work for a consulting company, and we have a lot of customers who are either interested in it or are asking a lot of questions, or like some of the questions that we had in the chat, maybe just don't understand exactly what it is that Arc does, right? So you did a great job explaining that. And the one challenge that I've found historically with Arc, and it is getting better, but the one challenge I found was onboarding. So if you have, it's grand if you have a small number of workloads, you can bring them in easy enough. But if you have a scenario where I had a customer recently and they were like, hey, we want to take advantage of Defender for Cloud and Defender for servers, right? Now, if those servers live in Azure, it's easy. You enable it on the subscription, right? Job done. When those servers are on-prem, you need to extend the Azure management capabilities via Arc to those workloads on-prem. But when you have 200 or 500 Windows 2012 servers, for example, it's a bit of a pain in the backside to do it, right? You can do it with group policy. You can do it with System Center Config Manager. You know, if they're sitting on, you mentioned the System Center integration. There's a bunch of ways there, but I'm interested from your experience. If you had, let's say, a number like 200 or 300 on-prem workloads, what would be your go-to method of onboarding? If, for example, the organization did not have something like Config Manager. Now, anyone with that number of servers and up should have, right? But hypothetically speaking, what would be your quickest way to onboard?
Yeah. So basically, if you don't have any type of management systems in your environment, because I had experience with enterprise environment. I'm talking about an organization that having a VMware solution on their environment. So we used Azure Resource Bridge. So Azure Resource Bridge is responsible to manage everything in your environment, and it does work perfectly. But when it comes to an environment that you don't have that much management system, so basically you need to create a kind of configuration file for your servers to be applied to different servers in your environment. It can be through these kind of tools, or even you can create some automation in your environment, because you can easily include this onboarding script to some automation and just push it to your servers. So basically, when it's done, you just need to check it on Azure site, basically.
Right. I agree totally. And one method that we found was, it felt like we were still working in the 1990s, but it actually worked really well. And the scenario was, we had an educational customer who had a lot of physical servers. So obviously, as you mentioned about the Arc Bridge, if the workloads are virtualized, it's a lot easier to figure out a way to get them in. But these were mostly physical. And it wasn't just out at end of life. It wasn't just Windows Server 2012. They wanted to extend those physical servers to things like Azure Policy and, as I mentioned, Defender for Cloud. So we ended up, they were all Windows Server Active Directory domain joined, and we ended up putting together, as you mentioned, some scripts into a group policy object, a custom group policy object on an OU or multiple OUs that were basically contained the computer objects of those workloads. And, it took a couple of days and they all started popping up into Azure. And little bit of troubleshooting we had to do, but it worked. It just felt old school, but I don't
Yeah.
think there's much other way. Now, we've also done the system center route, or gone the system center route with config manager, and that's worked really well because you just packaging out that deployment. But it's a really, really good management capability, and I'm glad you brought up the cost and the pricing of it as well, because a lot of people ask, and Microsoft probably don't do well. The Microsoft website probably doesn't do itself any favors around pricing, because you look at certain things, and Azure Arc is $6 here, but then if you add on Defender for Cloud, and you did call it out in your slides, Defender for Cloud is extra, and you add this on, but you can get change tracking and inventory for free, and it can be just quite confusing. But it is a really good management tool to extend your cloud from on-prem to there. And we've got a bunch of customers as well who have AWS workloads. So maybe their primary environment is in Azure and on-premises Windows Server, but they might have, I don't know, customer-facing workloads, for example, that are sitting in AWS, or it could be Google, could be wherever. And we've used it to bring in the management capabilities there as well. So it's really, really useful.
Yeah, and
Sure.
it's really good that you mentioned about the scenario that you have had for onboarding these old fashioned way to Azure Arc. But basically, it's really important that we can see, right, the complexity of an environment when it comes to hybrid environment, right? So now you have one plane of management, so you can manage all of those, even old environment. We are talking about Windows 2012. So basically you can easily manage that. One of the cool things that I loved about Azure Arc, because as I've mentioned, I've been working on automation and integration on Azure too. So I faced a lot of requests, or let's say we had some requests from customers. Hey, we have these old machines in our environment that we are not going to expose any ports to public endpoints, but we need to do some automation on this VM. So what is the solution? It's Azure Arc. You can onboard that server to your environment and install Azure automation extension on Azure Arc onboarded server, and you can easily use PowerShell and Python script to do some automation on your servers. And you can keep all of those scripts, shared resources, security on Azure in a secure way.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. And again, so many examples, like even some areas that you talked about with the Kubernetes extension, the sandbox, the Azure Arc box, all that kind of stuff. Like Microsoft have really put a lot of time and investment into this. And I think it does differentiate Azure as a true hybrid cloud management platform versus some of the other vendors, who also have really good cloud platforms, but maybe their management experience isn't great in it as well. So let me see. I don't see any more questions on.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually have two questions, but I will start with the first one, hopefully the easy one. I know that in the clouds, in Azure at the moment, they're working on the update management v2, that they're working on a whole new update management. As far as I know, this new update management is not supported in Azure Arc yet, right? Or is it supported already?
Yeah, they have it on their roadmap, but basically you still can use Azure Automation Update Management. So you can easily use the same extension and use the old portal, I would say, to push updates to your environment.
And the second one, which is maybe a bit more difficult one. So I sometimes work with some customers who are very wary of everything security-wise. So I've talked with some of these customers, and I then tell them like, yeah, your configuration, it will be managed in the cloud. And they get very scared because configuration data is sent over the internet, which scares them a lot. Do you know how easy it is to set up Azure Arc that it will use, for example, a VPN or express route connection?
Exactly. The good things about Azure Arc, of course, it depends on different scenarios that you are going to do. For example, if you are using data services, you can use disconnected scenario. So you can have one Kubernetes cluster to your environment, which is connected to Azure Arc, and you can manage all of your resources in your environment based on Kubernetes cluster. But if you are talking about kind of servers and like working on servers, basically you can use VPN included private endpoint, and you can make sure all of traffic goes through the internal network instead of public endpoints.
Yeah. Nice. That makes a lot of customers, for me at least, very happy.
Yeah. Cool.
Any more questions, folks, for Saeid? Saeid, another one on Arc, the extended security updates. Have you deployed many of them, or have you had a hands-on experience with the recent Windows Server 2012 and 2012 R2 ESUs?
Yeah, basically we had one customer that we helped them to use that solution for extending the security updates. But basically, one of the important things that you need to know is you have to keep updating your, environment. So that's the problem. It's from my perspective and experience, I would say it's a temporary solution for your environment, but it works perfectly. So they had like 3 servers, if I'm not mistaken, and they haven't had time to move to another version of the servers. So we use Azure Arc, onboarded, and we applied the extend security items updates to those servers that they needed, and it does work. So we will have another plan for next year to change from 2012 to the new one.
Yeah, and I think a lot of folks, it does work really well, but it's not as straightforward as deploy the Azure Arc agent and then you get the security updates.
No.
A lot of folks think do you know the way if you lift and shift the workload, it will automatically take the updates once it's sitting on the Azure platform. But if you bring it in with Azure Arc, there are a number of prerequisites. You need to have software assurance, or you need to have a Windows Server license. There's a number of prerequisites for your licensing team to become compliant. But once the Azure Arc service, if you like, sees those workloads up in the cloud, you then, as you mentioned, you have to go into the ESU section. You have to purchase the number of licenses based on the number of cores.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a super technical process, but it's a process that has to be followed step by step. So just for anyone who might be interested in that, I've got a link I'm going to drop into the chat here, and it's a walkthrough link that was put up on the tech community blog in and around last month, towards the end of last month, and it's a nice blog. Just captures it. It links to all of the official Microsoft doc sources, and it will cover what we've just talked about there. So I'm going to drop it into the chat for anyone that wants it.
Also, do note with the extended security updates that it does also include more costs that you pay for the several cores.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I mentioned it's a temporary solution. You shouldn't think of a long-term solution.
Yeah, keeping Server 2012 running should never be a long-term solution in any case.
Exactly.
No, it shouldn't. But as techies and as evangelists, that's easy for us to say. But then when you're talking to customers who, might have that legacy piece of software that the developer is no longer available, you hear the stories all the time. And then we're going to stick on our cloud native and our app modernization hat and start preaching to them. And it's like, I just need to be secure and compliant now. Okay, yeah. ESUs. And you're right. The advantage of, sorry, Leo, you were right. The advantage of onboarding ESUs with Arc is it's in a pay-as-you-go scenario. So use it as long as you need to consume it. Whereby if you go to your license reseller or you go direct to Microsoft and say, hey, I've got 50, 40, 30, 100, whatever number of end-of-life Windows Server 2012 servers that I need to protect, you must purchase a license up front, which I believe is 1 or 2 years minimum. I can't recall, but it's at least 1 year minimum. And even if you then upgrade those workloads throughout the year, you've paid for the 12 months at least. So at least with Azure Arc, you can do as you say, and you can kind of just carve it up that way. So
It's the same as with all the Azure stuff, pay as you use, which makes it interesting in some cases.
Yeah. So I invited someone, Constantius. Can you come on camera?
Hey,
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet you all. How are you?
Hey,
Great speech,
Constantius.
Saeid.
He's speaking
you
on
so
the.
much.
He's speaking in February into our session, Kevin.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Welcome.
nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet
Yeah,
you.
it is a hot topic, Arc right now because we live in Greece, and many customers just now discovering the words compliance, security. These things are getting hot right now. And we're planning to deploy a lot of Arc agents. And some things came up while we discovered what's going on with Arc. Is it true? This is my question. Is it true that if you don't have the software assurance, you have to pay for everything until now? Do you know this detail?
I'm not sure actually.
Yeah, we are not
So
sure
is
either.
just to be clear, Constant, is it Con or Constantinos?
You can call me Costas for short. Costas.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I want to get your name right. So to understand your question, are you asking if you have workloads that require the ESU that you need to have, you have to have software assurance? Is that what the question is, or?
No, if you don't have the software assurance, how can you resolve this? How can you apply the ESU on 2012 with
Okay.
Arc?
So software assurance is not the only, and that's why I dropped the link into the chat, right? Because these were the exact questions I had as well. So software assurance is not the only license requirement. It's the easiest route in. So if you have software assurance, that's just a quick tick box. The alternative is if you have purchased a server license. There are also multiple different license options that you may have already purchased with your enterprise agreement, or that you can purchase from your volume licensing provider. And basically, they just want to ensure that you have cover on your Windows Server workloads, right? If you find, I don't know, have you seen that workload, or sorry, that walkthrough that I posted, or have you seen it before?
Yeah, I just saw the link. I didn't have the time to open it, but we'll do that later.
Yeah, it gives a breakdown of the different license options. I'll try and find it while we're talking here.
Thank you.
But
I will study that, of course.
Yeah, it's not only software assurance, right? So
Yeah.
if you don't have software assurance, don't fret. It doesn't mean that you can just completely forget about ESUs with Azure Arc. But as I said, also an alternative is lift and shift that workload up into Azure, and then you don't need to worry about it. It will automatically then update.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
Kevin, what do you mean by ESU?
Extended security updates.
Okay.
Sorry. We in the tech community, we have a habit of dropping acronyms and just assuming everybody knows or everyone's read about them. So
yeah, there's way too many TLAs.
Wait. Any other Azure Arc questions or anything? Like, we've got a few of us here that know a little bit about Azure, I would hope. So if anyone has any questions.
So Saeid, have you used Azure Arc in any of your projects at work at scale?
Yeah. As I've mentioned, we have a big customer that they are using Azure Arc to basically for guest configuration and update management for their environment. I'm talking about, if I'm not mistaken, they have 1,010 servers.
Wow.
So you can imagine that they are using big environment, and they have different custom name. I didn't mention about custom name, but just that custom name, it's a having different naming environment in your Azure Arc that you can use it for different scenarios. But basically, yeah, that's the biggest scenario that I had. And plus of beside that, one of the coolest feature, the coolest scenario that I had with one of customers that was related to some automation, complex automation basically, because they wanted to move some specific data from the old application, and they couldn't braid off that old system. So we used Azure Arc to create kind of connection between old system and new system. So basically it does work perfectly right now. So they can use old system with new technology in Azure right now, including
Okay.
logic apps, automate, Azure automation, and also Power Automate. It's really cool.
Okay.
Costas, I dropped a comment
The link.
into the chat just about
Yeah.
your question as well. So if you don't have software assurance, then you can go through a SPLA or a server subscription. It's not a prerequisite. It just makes it more straightforward if you have software assurance.
Yes, that's great. Just saw it. This is great.
No problem.
Yeah.
I will drop a link to that specific section. That's on the actual official Microsoft documentation. So I'll drop a link to that one in as well. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Because I think it probably takes a long time to get software insurance from like a big company, because you have to audit everything of the license and chart the license. So a lot of like work.
The best thing is to get it when you buy the license, not try and retrospectively add it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some companies is not very good at tracking the license and stuff. So how would they know? You just have to go back to each devices and check everything like in the cloud on-prem and things.
I agree totally.
Yeah.
Any other questions, folks? Anything Azure related that's not Arc in specific?
I would like to again mention about ArcBox and Jumpstart project.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. One of the coolest Jumpstart that I've worked with that is Agora. So basically you can simulate a store like shopping store website on your environment with Agora, included Kubernetes, servers, and all aspects that you need for DevOps. So basically, you can have very good hands-on experience in Azure Arc with all aspects.
Yeah, personally, I love the Azure Stack HCI jump box.
Yeah.
Because normally you would need like a physical server to run it, and now you can just deploy it with only virtual stuff to test it out, which is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. As I mentioned, it's really cool solution if you all looking to test actual Azure Stack HCI. So it's a good solution. You can test HCI, Azure Stack HCI included Azure Arc together.
Yeah.
So big thanks to Lior Kamarat and his team.
Yeah, great team. Saeid, do you want to, if you can root out maybe a link or two for your recommended additional information on the jump box stuff and drop it into the chat for the folks, that'll be really useful. Like I found a few links as you were talking, but I guess you probably have the most up-to-date ones that are relevant and maybe not some older ones.
Of course.
Awesome. Anything else, guys, or anyone hitting any problems that they want to shoot and see can anyone help with, or
no,
everyone is all good in the hood? Costas, what's the topic that you're speaking about in the new year?
If I remember correctly, we decided to showcase personal identification masking. Is that correct, Nicolas?
Yeah, Synapse masking.
Yeah, with Synapse Analytics. Yeah.
So that's quite good.
nice.
That sounds very good.
It's a nice workshop. Yeah,
I've not used it before. That side, Synapse.
Yeah, awesome. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it's very
Always
nice, very interesting.
Yeah,
because a diverse topic, Nick. In fairness, every time I come onto this, even though I'm co-hosting with you, I'm constantly learning from all the different speakers, because Azure is just such a big platform.
Yeah, aren't we all?
It's impossible to try and keep up with everything. So
Yeah, have you guys tried the new I think the Azure AI, the Copilot thing, Copilot Studio.
I haven't tried the Copilot Studio yet. I did try the Designer, which I also liked
Yeah,
very
that's
much.
Microsoft Designer.
Yeah, Microsoft
Yeah,
Designer. It's a nice way to just get them to get some experience with AI without having to pay much or anything.
oh yeah, because I think that's free as well. That's integrated with that Bing as well, Bing image.
Yeah,
That's quite
the
cool.
Designer works in every browser, so you can just go there if you have a Microsoft account. It's well, everybody almost has a Microsoft account. If you have Windows or whatever, you can log in and create images and so on.
Yeah,
I
because
will put the
I've not tried the studio, but apparently you can just make your own internal chat GPT. We could like an interface, like this, like drag stuff things. So it's quite cool.
yeah, it's
I was
pretty
watching
cool.
it on an Ignite video when they're presenting it.
Did they talk about AI at Ignite?
just a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Just
And
a
I
little
think they
bit.
talk about the one again, the security Copilot as well.
Yeah,
So
It's
that's
coming.
been released as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Copilot for everyone.
I just found out that security Copilot, you have to buy a lot license for that. It's not free. Like for example, Copilot for Azure or any free Office 365 for Copilot, you have to pay a lot for that security Copilot. I think my work stage when I asked why I didn't get it, they said it couldn't afford it because it's like over 100K because
Wow.
because it's currently in preview and everyone's fighting for it. Wow.
That's the M365 Copilot is only available if you've got to select organizations with a minimum of 300 users that you want to onboard at a minimum cost of $30, I reckon, per head. So
because I think security Copilot is more of like everyone wants security and stuff, so they're trying to limit it by increasing the price.
it's just down. I reckon it's just down to the behind the scenes compute. Like they're trying to manage the amount of demand for compute that they have and they need. And when you look at the amount of services from an AI perspective that Microsoft alone have released in the last 2 months, even, it's nuts. So I guess it's like if you really want this, you're going to have to pay through the nose. If you don't want it, you can wait. And like everything, at some point it will become quite cost effective and feasible.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So I
we have
think
customers that came and asked for workshops, and we didn't know what to tell them. What kind of workshop can we present now on Copilot? I just went to CDX and find a lot of documentation, but I didn't have the time to look at it.
yeah, I think there's one on Microsoft Docs about like a big, like an article about different Copilots, like a wheel and stuff. So you can tell it like a demo and stuff, but you can read about it, but you just have to try to get a preview if you want to do your demo.
Yeah, I think the Copilot stuff will ultimately just become a commodity. I don't mean that to trivialize it, right? But I think the way we use some of the features that are just built into Microsoft Office now, for example, the proofing, right? So if you're writing documents and you've got all the proofing, and years ago it used to be just a simple spell checker. Now it will check grammar, it will check all that, right? So that's old school now compared to what we have in the likes of Copilot, which is obviously also based on generative AI, which it will go and it will generate new documents and new spreadsheets and PowerPoints and stuff. But it has to become a commodity in the not too distant future. It will just be like if you don't have it, you'll kind of be thinking, why have you not got that? It'd be like using Microsoft Office 97 or Office 2000. Just like, have you not got like Office 2025? Like it's a commodity, right?
True.
So
Eventually it will become a commodity. It's still quite some time, but we will get there.
Yeah, I think I do agree. I think the Azure OpenAI stuff, and Nick, you and I were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
That's the real like obviously Copilot is based on Azure OpenAI, and it's all
Yes.
based on the investment Microsoft made with OpenAI. But the scenarios that you can develop, or organizations can develop with Azure OpenAI, and it's completely not my specialist area, but you can bring your own data, you can create your own corporate chat GPT, or you can scale it out and you can have it looking at unstructured data or a database. Like there's so many different types of scenarios there, and when you have it at that size and that scale, and the models, the AI models are just getting better and better. Like GPT 3.5 was awesome, and then GPT 4, I don't know if anyone's seen some demos, and it's just nuts how accurate and how quick and just how intuitive it is. And we're only, I guess, in the early days of this stuff, right? And it's back to that kind of how much compute can you get? Like imagine having shares in Nvidia about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like no one would have thought Nvidia would have been one of the hottest stocks of 2023. And it's crazy. But it's all based on that.
I don't know if you guys watched the kickoff session by Satya Nadella for Ignite, but the part that NVIDIA co-founder joined him, he mentioned about one good things. He said OpenAI was the first wave of the new technology and AI, and the second one is the Copilot, and the third one is the actual big industries. So basically, we just middle of between first wave and second wave, and imagine what would be happen after the third waves. I think
because apparently Microsoft invested 16 billion of scaling people up, like in everywhere now, in schools everywhere. AI.
Combination of hardware and software and code. So I'm really happy that I'm living in these ages.
The next age might be scary.
But there's still enough to do for us because it still all needs to run on infrastructure somewhere.
Yeah. So I'm doing a cool thing at work. So I got told to develop a chatbot that look at past tickets at work, that in Jira, as well as like look through our documentation, like for example, any document like they can use, so developer can self-service themselves. So, like we post in Slack, they can do what they want, just type. So hopefully that will make them more productive than asking like normal laptops or anyone to help. So I just want to hopefully if we get that done, we can see how productive that will be in terms of the developer side.
Yeah, there's all kinds of these use cases, and there's no one real script. I think when people are looking to implement some AI solutions at the moment using Microsoft AI, right? Because the big party line on the sell is it's within the security context of your Entra ID, and you've got all of your Azure certified skills and blah blah blah, right? There's a big draw for corporate and enterprise to play with this, but we have loads and loads of customers asking us about it, and not so much the Copilot like that. Again, our modern work team are getting requests for that all the time. But in my Azure team, it's like, Kev, we want to talk about AI. Great. What do you want to do? We don't know. Just something to do with AI, right? Okay, cool. So and most of the time in their head, it's probably just a chat GPT type of thing. Yeah. But Nick, as you were saying, when people start thinking a little bit outside the box, like, okay, how can we use it to review this? Like if you think of generative AI, right? If you think of bringing your own data in maybe a sales organization or a consulting company like ourselves, right? So is it possible, for example, to have the AI models trained on all of our, not trained, but indexing all of our internal data? And we've already put some demos in place for this already internally. And for example, from a sales perspective, or from I'm leading the Azure practice in Ergo, so sometimes I might want to say, hey, tell me all of the projects where we delivered an Azure migration in the Republic of Ireland in the last 6 months. Yes, you could find that with a SharePoint search or a document search, but it's a little bit clunky. And then you could say summarize it, and then you could potentially say when the integration with Copilot and Azure OpenAI links up, now go generate me a slide deck based on that. That's really productive. That could save you maybe an hour a day if you had to do that. And that mightn't sound like a lot, but if you had 4, 5, 6 tasks similar to that you could use AI for, you've just saved yourself nearly a day in a week. You multiply that over a year, all of a sudden it's really shown its value. So, but I think it's back to your point, Nick. It's where you can find that value and where you can firstly get it to work, right, and then secondly, show it to the business and show that it can pay back on whatever investment it costs. I think it's really cool.
I do need to note that often now when people talk about AI, they only think about the ChatGPT, the generative AI, while like what's it called again? The cognitive services from Azure is something which is publicly available for quite some years already.
Yeah.
I think what Constance, I think we call your name, or what was it? Is going to talk about the PII detection, also uses some neural networks or machine learning on the background. There's like sentiment detection, image detection, raunchy filters, and whatever in cognitive services, which in a lot of cases you can actually use for free if it's not that much, which is especially if you're a developer for a Power Platform. If you're making Power Apps in Azure, which you use in your corporate environments, where people, for example, upload pictures, you can use these filters to just check that they're not uploading anything they're not supposed to. It's very nice and it's so easily accessible that it's always nice to keep in mind that there's more than just the ChatGPT at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's why I'm encouraging people that they have to read about Azure AI fundamentals, because all of the information that you just mentioned are included AI fundamental. What is AI 900, right?
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah, and if you don't like reading, just go to the virtual training days.
Yeah, it will be interesting to know how Microsoft would develop the legislation for AI, because like for them they have the content service now, but how would it be using like in a law firm and those things aspect? So that will be curious to know how Microsoft would do that way. I mean, like any other policies for that. So
did you see the news announcement today where the European Union have announced a new AI bill?
no.
I've read about it a little bit, but not in detail yet.
Yeah, it's not going to be in place until probably late 2024, early 2025, and God knows what we'll have then. But it's the EU. The EU, I suppose, like to think that they're ahead of the rest of the world for legislation, and to a degree they are. But I can never thank them for having to constantly click on the accept cookies button and everything. So I'm hoping that this legislation around AI is not going to be the same kind of mess, but I can totally understand why,
From what I understood, it was mostly created for other AI services like image detection, cameras, and so on, and they only included large language models in the end because it was popping up so fast that they had to include something. But it's mostly about some governance in it, from what I read. But I only read it in a high overview at the moment, so can't speak in detail yet.
Yeah, I agree. Exactly the same. Just a quick overview in the news, and it looks like it's it's more industry and more law enforcement and things like that they're trying to just, I suppose, give people a bit of confidence that if this AI software and these AI models are getting so smart and so efficient that they just can't be used for nefarious reasons, right? So at least, I guess, some control. But as all legislation in these type of scenarios, it could take 1 to 2 years to put into place, and who knows what we're going to be dealing with then. So
yeah. So the good thing is that Microsoft is now partnership with OpenAI. OpenAI. So it's a lot of exciting things coming up. from them.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we leave it there. If
Yes.
we let people get some rest. I appreciate you. Some of you guys are a few hours ahead of us here in GMT. So, I'm done. Has anybody else got something you want to run through or you want to ask? Or everyone happy to close it out?
I just want to let everybody know that the festive tech calendar is still going on. So if you want to see some content from many content creators from all out in the community, check out the festive tech calendar. It's a wonderful resource to learn in these dark
And
in
don't
this dark
forget to
month.
donate as well. The Raspberry
Yes.
Pi Foundation.
Yeah, sure.
Good
And
show,
also
guys.
don't miss Microsoft Learning Rooms. Okay, cool.
Okay. Let me
Perfect.
play a little video, then I end the stream.